What if I told you that we're going to see more and more information about the Batman from the DCU? And on top of that, what if I said there are canonical productions for the DCU being made in South Korea, Japan, and Brazil? That's right, a lot of news came out this week, but will this idea of projects outside the United States actually work? What would the Batman's uniform in the DCU look like? And how are the other projects coming along? That's what we're going to talk about today, because once again, James Gunn dropped more info during his interviews around the world. So without further ado, let's check out all the news from the DCU this past week. Moving on to Lanterns, Nexus Point reported that in the series we'll see flashbacks of Hal Jordan's childhood, featuring his mom Jessica Jordan and his dad Martin Jordan. Hey, this is an interesting point to note because in the past it's been revealed that we'll see a lot of John Stewart's family relationships, but nothing had been mentioned about Hal Jordan until now, so here we go. In the comics, Hal Jordan's dad plays a huge role in Hal's life since he's the one who influences Hal to become a pilot. He also significantly contributes to Hal's willpower, which is another key factor in Hal becoming a Green Lantern in the future. It looks like the series will dive into all these important aspects that shaped Hal Jordan into who he is. Regarding Lanterns, that's a big update we have at the moment, and honestly the show hasn't really had many details released so far. They're managing to keep it light on things, but we're hopeful for some interesting details and official images soon so we can finally get a teaser or a trailer, but let's wait because filming is about to wrap up and post-production is starting. Now moving on to the latest about Wonder Woman in the DCU, someone asked James Gunn during an interview if Adria Arjona could play Wonder Woman in the DCU. This casting has been a hot topic among fans online lately. She's done great work and even worked with James Gunn in the past, plus she's dating Jason Momoa. Some fans even thought this could really happen because supposedly James Gunn started following her on Instagram, but he clarified things. He said, "I follow Adria on Instagram, but everybody came out and thought he just followed her, that means she's Wonder Woman. But she was in a movie that I made 7 years ago. We've been friends and have known each other since that time. I followed her then. I didn't just follow her. People just notice these things all the time." Also, Gunn added, she'd be a great Wonder Woman by the way. The movie he worked on with the actress is called The Belko Experiment, released in 2016. Many fans truly want her as Diana, but just like with Batman, this casting will be hard to please everyone, as opinions vary on who fans want to see play these characters. But I have no doubt that if Adria Arjona is chosen, she'll do a fantastic job as Wonder Woman. She's a great actress, but it's still not set in stone. However, if James Gunn said that, there's no doubt he'll at least consider auditioning her for the role. In addition, James Gunn also mentioned that he has plans for Nubia in the DCU, which can be super interesting and might even set the DCU apart from the DCEU. In the comics, Nubia has been the queen of the Amazons in Themyscira in Hippolytus Place, and with Paradise Lost being developed for the DCU, this could be a great opportunity to introduce the character. There are solid things coming regarding Wonder Woman's storyline in the DCU. But as we don't always get great news, Gunn also highlighted that there's no update on Static Shock, considering the character had a movie announced back at the first DC fandom in 2020. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bureaucratic issues regarding rights, so we won't see a Static Shock movie anytime soon. That's a bummer, since he will be a fantastic character in live action and could be among the most popular in the DC universe. I really love his interactions with other Justice League heroes in the 2000s animations, and the DC has tried to push the character on the comics a few times, but it kind of stops there. It's a character that's becoming more and more forgotten, but he definitely has great potential. Now, turning to the Batman of the DCU, he has been really talked about by Gunn lately. One detail that stood out to many people is that James Gunn mentioned Drew Goddard as one of the screenwriters who helped him significantly during the production of Superman, and this name caught everyone's attention because up until now, Gunn had never mentioned this director before, leading to speculation that this director and screenwriter is the secret writer for James Gunn working on Batman the Brave and the Bold. Drew Goddard would be an interesting name to write the Batman script. He wrote the script for Cloverfield, which was directed by Matt Reeves. Pretty cool, right? Plus, he also wrote episodes of Daredevil when he was on Netflix, not the Born Again series, so he's really a skilled filmmaker. Of course, this is just fan speculation, but if he really is the writer for Brave and the Bold, that would be awesome. Moreover, someone asked James Gunn and David Corenswet how Superman would react upon discovering Batman's existence, and David replied, "Excitement." I don't know whether he knows about Batman's existence or not. We haven't talked about that. But as soon as he finds out there's a man dressed as a bat protecting his city, it's like, I want to go check that guy out. James Gunn also mentioned, well, first of all, we don't know he hasn't already seen a man dressed as a bat. I think that he would probably see a kindred spirit in that. Another crazy person wearing a crazy costume with a very different intent. Guys, this statement from James Gunn, while not explicitly clear, opens up an interesting possibility. If Superman and Batman already know each other, in a future film featuring both them, it won't be necessary to have that initial meeting and suddenly a fight between them. Let's face it, 90% of superhero crossovers start with heroes fighting each other before becoming friends. And with this possibility that they already know each other, it could provide a different movie where their partnership develops instead of them fighting. And if that happens, I think it would be super cool. Still on Batman, David Corenswet also said that besides Batman himself, he wants Superman to interact with one of the Robins, mentioning Nightwing in this statement. He said that despite having a son in current stories, it would be cool to see that interaction where Superman could be like an uncle to those characters. Guys, it would be awesome to see that happen. Superman is one of the most important characters in the creation of Nightwing, and besides that, Robin has always been by Batman and Superman's sides since the first meeting of those two characters in the comics. Robin is one of the world's finest. Continuing with DC characters that Nicholas Hoult would like to interact with, when asked which villain he'd want to engage with as Lex Luthor, the actress said he'd like to interact with the Joker. I really hope that happens. If there's ever a world's finest movie, I really want the villains to be Lex Luthor and the Joker. That would be incredible. Brainiac could also be a cool villain. I've seen people mentioning wanting him as a bad guy, but I still prefer it to be Joker and Lex Luthor. This also reminds me of the first meeting of Batman with Superman in the DCAU, where Lex Luthor and Joker were the big threats for the world's finest. It would be incredible if that happened in the DC as well.
When asked about Batman's costume in the DCU, Gunn was pretty evasive in his response, saying, "You know, there's no decisions made about the costume at all reset. I do like the blue and gray bat suit, but I like the other versions too. I like many different versions. I'm a Batman super fan, and so I like all the different versions of the Batman suit. I don't know what we are going to do. I didn't know we were going to do the trunks on Superman until the last minute on this movie."
So guys, even though I really want to see Batman in the gray and blue suit with trunks over the pants, I don't feel like James Gunn wasn't jumped right into that. I agree with him about the suit. I really like the blue and gray, but I also love a lot of other suits, so it's gonna be a tough choice. Of course, it's still a possibility, but for now, nothing suggests that Batman will show up in the classic suit that's been around in the comics for so many years. I also really like the gray and black suit, but in my opinion, the gray with a dark hue tone could look quite interesting and would really set it apart from Robert Pattinson's Batman. Gunn's response suggests that he still has doubts about the DCU Batman he's feeling insecure about making Batman, which is understandable since it's a character that's been tackled by many other directors and writers, and according to what he recently said, Batman is the most important character for Warner, so there's definitely pressure on that movie to not mess anything up. Furthermore, when asked during the London premiere of Superman if Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman would meet in a film, Gunn confirmed they would, but not in the next movie. To me, that's also interesting because it means they're not rushing things, unlike the DCU, where Snyder had to hurry and put Batman and Wonder Woman in the second movie, not to mention the other Justice League heroes who popped up quickly. So introducing the characters first in solo films before bringing them together is the best way to go. This totally removes any chances of a world's finest movie resembling Batman versus Superman. To wrap up the latest info about Batman, when it comes to Brave and the Bold, there aren't any significant updates. However, regarding The Batman Part 2, the script has already been read by James Gunn and Peter Safran, and James Gunn even said that the script is great. So we'll soon find out if the film has gotten the green light to move forward with pre-production. Now moving on to other productions from DC Studios, James Gunn confirmed that productions around the world will happen, not just restricted to the United States. DC Studios is expanding the amount of its film and series productions worldwide. In an interview with HT City, James Gunn and Rachel Brosnahan discussed whether DC Studios might eventually work with Indian directors and actors on films, and Gunn pointed out that Bollywood cinema had influenced some of his work in Superman. But yes, he really wants to work with local Indian cinema to create DC productions. He also revealed that he's working with other countries, including South Korea, Brazil, and Japan. He didn't specify if these productions would only focus on characters from those nationalities, or if there would also be productions for other characters that aren't necessarily from those countries. However, with this news, old rumors of a Korean film about Huntress had gained more strength. In fact, insider Apocalyptic Horseman, who brought up this rumor in the past, recently commented that the production involving Huntress might not necessarily be a movie, but could instead be a series. And even though Alina Vercinelli isn't Korean in the comics, they bring an approach to the DCU where she'd be half Korean and half Italian. Now, thinking about the other countries mentioned, there are many possibilities in Japan that could involve projects related to Kitano, even Dr. Light, who's been part of Justice League International. As for Brazil, there's Fire, who was also one of the members of the JLI. Everything seems to be lining up for a potential Justice League International in the DCU. Of course, this isn't 100% confirmed, but it totally makes sense considering the characters already in the DCU and announced projects like Booster Gold series and Gunn's announcement regarding other countries. A report from Nexus Point highlighted that these international projects have been in development since the DCU began, and it notes that all these projects will have international settings and will be written and spoken in the local language, featuring casts made up of actors from those countries. The most important element of these projects will be developed by creatives from these respective countries, with most of these projects already having creatives attached. Although characters will be speaking their native languages in these projects, they are still canon to the DCU and are expected to cross over in other projects that are spoken in English. Another note is that all these projects are currently only TE projects, some will be animated, and those projects will adapt characters whose origins already include them originating from their respective countries, but like Huntress, origins will be modified for certain characters to fit the story's narrative.
Completing the information, the piece talks a bit more about the rumors surrounding the Huntress series. It was later reported by DCU Leaks that Yoon Byung-jil from Villainous was attached to write and direct the series. The intention is for Pom Klementiev to portray the character within the DCU. This has never been formally confirmed since no deal has been set in place at the moment. It's currently unknown whether a deal has been made for Klementiev to officially portray Huntress, but if it were, there's a possibility the character could appear in projects prior to Huntress. Since the project's announcement, fans have heavily speculated that this would indeed be Klementiev's role in the DCU, and have begun to wonder if she would debut in Season 2 of Peacemaker, as she was present on set during the visit with Gunn. Folks, in my opinion, this could be pretty interesting, because you'd have the opportunity for a much broader range of creative stories, and it wouldn't just be restricted to the United States. Of course, this idea could be quite risky for films, but for animations and series, it might just work out. I really think this could end up being a defining factor for the DCU, but for now, let's not get our hopes up too much about the Huntress series or even Fire, as that's still unconfirmed, just rumors. And if it does happen, it'll take a while to see all of that come to fruition. But guys, that's my take. Now it's your turn to share yours. Comment down below about which news you like the most and are excited about. Do you want to see a Huntress series? Are you pumped for Batman Brave and the Bold? Please write in the comments. I'm keeping an eye on them. And don't forget, before you leave the video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. If you want to stay updated on all the DC news and everything happening in the DCU, you need to be subscribed to our channel and have notifications on to receive news as soon as it's published. Thanks a ton for all the support you give us. For you wanting to know everything that's been happening in the DCU lately, click on the playlist showing on your screen and stay in the loop. And for those anxious for the Batman Part 2, check out our video on the latest updates and what to expect from the film. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.